I found friends. I found sports.
I found my passion.
I found family.
I found my calling. I found a place to call home. Discover what you can find at Marietta by visiting marietta.edu today.
Coming up today on NewsCenter 15, misinformation about climate change and the interior of the Trump administration.
And updated recommendations for screenings of hepatitis C.
We'll have these stories and more. NewsCenter 15 starts now. Good afternoon and welcome to Tuesday's edition of NewsCenter 15. I'm Andrew Konjovich.
And I'm Cole Longcor.
Topping our news this afternoon, the Trump administration has been accused of inserting debunked scientific claims about climate change into official reports. Monday's New York Times cites 9 different Interior Department documents which contained misinformation. According to the report, the environmental studies contained untrue language about scientists' belief about global warming. The Times points to Interior Department employee Indor Goklani as the source of the fabrications, but there have been no confirmations so far.
If you're planning a trip, keep in mind most travel insurance doesn't cover epidemics. In the majority of cases, once a virus is known, its presence is no longer an unforeseen event, and there's no related coverage. There are ways to buy travel insurance that might cover cancellations due to coronavirus, called cancel for any reason policies, but they can go up to 50% over, which is the amount above travel insurance.
Well, what's the weather like out there today?
Here to take a first look at our weather is Landon Santini.
What can we expect, Lando?
Well, now that we're in the smack dab in the first full week of March, we can expect much warmer conditions than usual. This is the warmest day, I think, of the year so far. Right now it feels like 57 outside with cloudy conditions and an expected high of 59. And as a result, the air quality outside is absolutely fantastic, and the pollen level is pretty low, although if you're not used to the warmer temperatures after the cold front we've had the last several weeks, you might have some allergies here and there. The winds are going to be running at the north at about 9 miles per hour. The humidity is 69%, so there's a decent chance of precipitation. We've had a pretty pleasant morning, but there might be a slight chance of some kind of rain or maybe a slight drizzle later on in the afternoon or the evening. But it looks like we're going to have we've had a pretty warm week so far, and it looks like we're going to continue to have a warm week. But we'll talk a little bit more about that and what's ahead for our weekend when I come back for the 5-day forecast later on in the show. So until then, back to you guys at the desk.
The Poison Prevention Packaging Act in 1970 required a number of household items to have child-resistant packaging, which significantly reduced accidental medication poisonings in young children. However, a new study in the Journal of Pediatrics says that the last 20 years, the use of medication has gone up, and so has unattended medication exposures to young children. The authors say efforts to reduce child medication poisonings should encourage adults to keep medicine in children-resistant packaging and out of easy reach.
The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force recommends screening for the hepatitis C virus in all adults ages 15 to 79. The previous 2013 recommendation was to screen only those at high risk and adults being between 45 and 85. The task force updated recommendations after finding the screenings more adults tend to lean earlier more towards effective treatment and interventions.
Coming up, frozen houses, primates with peanut butter, and more.
We'll be back after this break.
I never chew tobacco.
I don't drink much.
Never smoked a cigarette in my life.
HPV. Isn't that about cervical cancer?
What does that have to do with oral cancer?
HPV? Didn't know that.
Hey, Major, did you get your flu vaccine yet? Make that your mission for today.
Did you say mission? Let's do this. With the flu season coming up, we all have to help protect ourselves by getting the flu vaccine. And if you're over 65 like me, you gotta even be more careful. Look out! Our immune system may not be as strong as it used to be, so we have to do everything we can to keep the flu from catching up with us. Educating yourself about your flu vaccine options is important. It's also really easy. So ask about your vaccine options, because if you're a tough guy like me, you may need a tough vaccine. The flu can aggravate other conditions, so make it your mission to get the right flu shot for your age.
Lee, is that you? Did you complete your mission?
Oh, you mean the flu shot? No sweat. Visit the National Council on Aging at ncoa.org/flu to learn more about vaccine options for people 65 and older.
Residents that live along Lake Erie in upstate New York woke up yesterday morning to find extreme weather had turned their homes into something out of the Chronicles of Narnia, only with less mystical whimsy and more crippling seasonal depression. According to National Weather Service, 48 hours of gale-force winds and freezing lake water encased some of the homes in ice. In some cases, several feet of ice.
Sunday, March 1st was National Peanut Butter Lovers Day, and orangutans and gorillas at Chicago's Brookfield Zoo had quite a celebration. According to the zoo, the primates occasionally get peanut butter along with other food items for enrichment. But they don't just give them a spoon like humans use. Staffers try to simulate foraging behaviors by giving them sticks to eat it with.
The organizers of the Grammy Awards said on Monday they fired the chief executive they had placed on administrative leave in January. Recording Academy chief executive and president Deborah Dugan was placed on leave just 5 months after taking the helm as the organization's first female president and pledging to bring more diversity to the body, whose members vote on the highest prizes in the music industry. The board cited an unspecified allegation of misconduct against Dugan by a female member of the Recording Academy, as well as consistent management deficiencies and failures. Dugan's lawyer said in a statement on Monday, the decision showed the Recording Academy will stop at nothing to protect and maintain a culture of misogyny, discrimination, sexual harassment, corruption, and conflicts of interest.
Chevron Corp is offering buyouts to reduce its U.S. oil exploration and production workforce. These sources told Reuters that the oil major moves to cut costs in the face of sharply lowered oil and gas prices. The number 2 U.S. oil producer decided to reduce staff after reviewing operations late last year as energy prices fell. The sources said Chevron confirmed that it was offering buyouts to workers in shale gas businesses in the eastern United States, but did not comment on any other U.S. job cuts.
Coming up next, Australians' biosecurity laws, Apple lawsuit, and more.
We'll also get the latest news from Hollywood.
And while the homes of the Mid-Ohio Valley are not in any danger of being encased in ice, we might have a bit of a cool down this weekend. More on that when I come back for the 5-day forecast after the break.
Where are we?
We are at Marietta College.
This is where we live, at Marietta College.
Australia will use a little-known biosecurity law to restrict the movements of people suspected of having coronavirus, its Attorney General said on Tuesday. Australia on Monday confirmed the first community transmission of coronavirus after a doctor contracted the virus. It is not known how the man in his 50s was infected. Amid fears of widespread outbreak, Attorney General Christian Porter said, Australia will expand the use of a rarely used law that would either designate some places as out of bounds or place the patient in home detention. Keen to temper fears, Prime Minister Scott Morrison urged Australians to remain calm as some rush to shops to stock up on supplies in case of a pandemic or restrictions of movement.
The United States said on Monday it is considering helping to increase humanitarian aid to Syria as Russian-backed Syrian forces press an offensive threat that has already displaced 1 million people and drawn in forces from neighboring Turkey. The United States is looking at providing increased humanitarian aid for the persons in Syria. That is one thing I had a conversation with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. About that, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper told News Briefing at the Pentagon.
Apple Incorporated has agreed to pay up to $500 million to settle litigation accusing it of quietly slowing down older iPhones as it launched new models to induce owners to buy replacement phones or batteries. Apple denied wrongdoing and settled the nationwide case to avoid the burdens and costs of litigation, court papers show. Friday's settlement covers U.S. owners of the iPhone 6, 6 Plus, 6S, 6S Plus, 7 Plus, 7S Plus, or to be ran against iOS 10.1. It also covers U.S. owners of the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus that ran iOS 11.2 or later before December 21st, 2017. Lawyers for the consumers described the settlement as fair, reasonable, and adequate. A Best Picture boost, a dramatic true story, and a singer looks back on the tune that made her infamous.
Here to fill us in on the latest news in Hollywood is Austin.
Yes, hello. So today in Hollywood, we have actors who wanted to be cast in the basketball players in the movie The Way Back. Ben Affleck's young players, young co-stars, they had to prove they can not only act, but they also play. This will be coming to you, a theater near you. Also, Paul Williams is getting the Songwriters Hall of Fame's highest honor. The Grammy winner will receive the Johnny Mercer Award, which goes to someone who is already in the Hall of Fame, who just upholds the gold standards of songwritings. The composer of such hits as We've Only Just Begun, Rainy Days and Mondays, Evergreen, and Rainbow Connection will be honored at the 51st Annual Songwriters Hall of Fame Gala in New York on June 11th in Hollywood. I'm Austin Baumgartner.
Thanks, Austin. It's time now to check back with Landon for our extended forecast.
What do you have for us today, Landon?
Well, here's what Landon Jarrett has for you today. As I've mentioned earlier, we have a bit of a chance of precipitation later on in this afternoon. We've had a bit of a more or less clear but decently cloudy day today. As you can see, most of the precipitation that we had throughout yesterday has left our little neck of the woods in the Mid-Ohio Valley and has gone off into our neighboring state of Pennsylvania, which for us means we've got a pretty clear day today. Lovely weather for a lovely little rainbow connection. Absolutely zero precipitation activity going on in our city of Marietta right now, but that could change in a few hours. Now, as we look ahead to the 5-day forecast, our rather warm week will continue on tomorrow with a high of 56 on Wednesday, low 29, and mostly sunny conditions. And then we'll have a bit of a cool down a little bit starting on Thursday with a high of 51, low of 35, partly sunny conditions thereabouts. But then as we get into Friday, we'll have a drastic drop down with a 50% chance of snow and a high of 40 and a low of 25. So there's a chance the snow might not stick. But then as we continue on into the weekend, we'll start warming up again with a high of 50, with a high of 45, low of 29, and partly cloudy conditions. And then when the weekend comes to an end, we'll be back to where we are thereabouts right now with partly cloudy conditions, a high of 59 and a low of 42. So now that we're in the first full week of March, as you can see, we're now much more inclined to get temperatures of the 50s, which means, I take to mean, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start seeing the first bouts of spring weather coming towards us. We'll talk a little bit more about that when I come back for the weather wrap-up at the tail end of the show, but until then, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks so much, Landon. And when we come back, Roscoe will have the latest from the world of sports.
Stay with us.
Cancer may be tough, but we are tougher. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Our game-changing research has led to the belief that the cures for cancer are in our blood. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Beating cancer is in our blood.
I think it goes around.
Come on, buddy.
I'm here for you.
Oh, it's gonna be great. Look, look.
Why is this so hard?
Let's go. We gotta get you in practice.
I read it. Look, and it said.
Now we're back with Roscoe for some look at the sports.
Busy week here at Marietta,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
You're right.
Marietta's
and I
had
have
some
the
pretty
rundown.
exciting stuff.
Lot going on.
First story is the Marietta College baseball team opened up their season this past weekend. The Edda Express played in the Baltimore Invitational and went the perfect 3-0. The Pioneers picked up wins against nationally ranked 7 Sunny Cortland by a score of 10-1. They also poked up wins against number 20 John Hopkins and Roanoke College, respectively. The Pioneers were led by junior third baseman Damian Yannis, who batted .455 over the weekend, which earned them OAC Hitter of the Week honors. The Piles continue their season next week as they travel to Florida over spring break to play several games. Now in the world of track and field, Marietta College was the host of the 2020 OAC Champions for indoor track and field. It was held this past weekend in the DBRC. The Piles finished 7th in both the men's and women's sides. The women's were led by sophomore Casey Neville, who won the championship in shot put with a throw of 13.48 meters. The men were led by junior Alex Demond, who earned a solid third place finish in the 55-meter hurdles and 7th place finish in the 200 meters. The Marietta men's basketball team learned they were dancing in the NCAA tournament early Monday afternoon. This is the 6th year the Piles have earned a spot in the tournament. The Piles posted a 21-6 regular season record and secured a 2 seed in the Ohio Athletic Conference tournament, but eventually failed to John Carroll Thursday night. The Piles will travel to Rudolph Narcan College in Ashland, Virginia to play the College of New Jersey in the opening round on Friday, with the tip-off time that will be announced at a later time. That's all I got for you today in the world of Marietta sports. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you so much, Roscoe. Joining us now at the desk is Lando for our first look at the weather.
Oh, thank you very much, Andrew.
You're welcome.
This past weekend, it's been quite wet, and the last previous week, it's been relatively cold. But I think the temperatures we've been having this week, which will be mostly in the higher 50s, with the exception of Friday, which will be a drastic cold drop. But I think that's an indication of things to come, because we are in the first week of March, which means spring. The official start of spring is going to be a couple weeks away, I think, towards the second half of the month. As I think that's definitely an indication, as after the cold front we have on Friday with the 50-50 chance of snow, I think there's a good chance that might be the last chance of snow we've got. We're going to warm up again once the weekend ends and we go into the next work week. So that's something to look forward to, especially if you're not a fan of snow. And I find that nowadays that seems to be the case more and more with residents of the Mid-Ohio Valley. People just don't seem to be a fan of snow anymore.
I like it.
I mean,
So
you
the
got to
substitute
shovel,
also-
though. Like,
Do we have to shovel though? The school does that for us.
well, not us, but I mean everyone else.
Yeah.
I just miss going on sled rides.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and that's it for today's broadcast. For all of us here at WCMO TV, thank you for watching. We hope you'll join us Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon 30 and 6:30 for WCMO NewsCenter 15, Marietta College Broadcasting. See you next time.
Yeah, we're called semios because